Nintendo has kind of won really big in their lawsuit against loveretro.co and loveroms.com. These are two websites that were basically ROM websites where you can go and download old ROMs for Super Nintendo, NES, Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, whatever have you. Okay. And Nintendo sued them, and the websites got taken down, and now there has been a lawsuit going on, and the judgment has come out. This is via Torrent Freak. um the judgment is $12 million, which I'm going to assume that these sites cannot do anything about that. Like, that seems like an unsurmountable. I can't imagine that a website that was giving away ROMs for, for just for advertising. I can't imagine that a site like that was making enough money that $12 million is something that they can handle. Like, that seems really, really bad for them. And it's not just about the ROMs, though. It also has a lot to do with the fact that uh, that they were also these websites were also using Nintendo trademarked art and stuff like that, which of course you do. Like, I mean, don't tell Nintendo, but I have little NES controllers in my podcast art. Hopefully they don't come after me for that. Um, Another podcast that I listen to has like the straight up just a logo from a Nintendo game as their podcast art. So it's definitely something you want to be careful of. But Nintendo coming after them for $12 million, that seems really, really crazy to me. Actually, it's the plaintiff is hereby awarded judgment against all defendants jointly and severally in the amount of $12,230,000. I'm sure that this is going to be something that has to do with I can't remember, what is it when they try and do a do-over appeal. So I'm sure that this is going to be something where there's an appeal from the parties, because basically I can't imagine that the plaintiffs here, or not the plaintiffs, that the defendants can afford to pay $12 million to Nintendo. At the end of the day, I'm sure that they'll end up paying less than that, but this is a pretty big scare tactic that can now be used by Nintendo whenever they go after somebody. From here on out, if Nintendo goes after somebody for using their stuff, they can say, hey, look, this judge said that these guys owe us $12 million. Do you want to take that risk? Take the stuff down right now. And I know that there's people who are going to be angry at Nintendo for doing this. I've talked about I've talked about, emulation, and it's a morally gray area, and it's definitely not a legally gray area, because legally it's perfectly legal for you to have ROMs as long as you are the one that ripped them. That being said, about websites like this, they're definitely illegal websites, and I understand that Nintendo has an obligation to its stockholders that if it does not go after sites like this, then the stockholders of Nintendo can sue them and say, you are not maximizing our profit. And that's how it works with a publicly traded company. That being said, I think that this is bad for fan sites. I think that this is bad for the preservation of video games, because some of these games are going to be impossible to get, and we want these things preserved. We want to have these things forever. And whenever Nintendo gives me the opportunity to send them some money, I clearly do. I clearly do. But I don't want the games that they don't decide to put on here. I don't want those games to be lost in the ether after, some fire burns the last copy of Little Samson or whatever. So I don't know how I feel about this. I am curious as to what you guys think about this judgment in Nintendo's favor. $12 million is a bucket load of money. You can buy a lot of Joy-Cons with that. At least 3 or 4 of them.